Breaking news.
This is a huge trade. The Dallas Cowboys are trading Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers.
What the hell are we doing as a franchise?
This is a gamble. The gambler should not have taken.
This is a microcosm of what's been happening with this franchise.
This is a dark and sad day.
You know, there's nowhere else to start NFL Live today. An enormous trade of an All-Pro a week before the season. Micah Parsons, a Packer, a North Star. Dallas trading maybe the league's most consistent pass rusher to Green Bay. This is the what. We'll get to the how and the why and the now what's over the next hour. The headline, again, worth repeating. The Packers traded for Micah Parsons. The Cowboys get Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks in return. As for the money, hey, money talks, and this number yaps. Parsons gets $120 million fully guaranteed, the most by a non-quarterback in the 125-year history of the National Football League. New on NFL Live, reaction this afternoon from Cowboys players and coach.
I think, we just went through the whole process, and at the end of the day, it was unanimous. This is not something we came about. It wasn't something where it was like an overnight thing. We had talked about it, and at the end of the day, I think when you look at a football team, when you can potentially add up to 4 or 5 players and things like that, it gives you the ability to do some things. We were certainly excited about the addition of Kenny Clark.
You mentioned your conversation with Jerry. What was his main message to you?
Man, this trade wasn't getting done unless I was in it, and that made me, feel wanted right there. And now I'm happy to be here.
How did you find out about the trade?
I got a text from Micah. He was like, I'm sorry it had to happen like this, and that's all I read. And I was like, put my phone down, like, yeah, that's it.
Of course it changes a lot, but at the same time, this whole entire camp, we were, he wasn't practicing. So, it's, like I said, it's still a surprise, but, we kind of been practicing. So we're just looking forward to going into week 1.
We'll see what happens with Parsons' absence, but his impact every season of his young career is undeniable. Not just 4 Pro Bowls in 4 years. He's number 1 in pass rush win rate and pressure percentage since entering the league. And if you go year by year, he's never been lower than second in either category in any season. Cowboys owner and GM Jerry Jones spoke last night and made it sound like this was all part of a grander plan.
There's no question that I could have signed him in April. And so we all know that to have agreements, all parties have to agree. But this was by design. This gives us a better chance to be a better team than we have been the last several years. Not only do we immediately get a player, but those draft picks could get us, I'm talking top Pro Bowl type players, could. Not necessarily, you're going to be quick to say, you won't necessarily get those players. You got to draft them or acquire them. But they could get us as few as 3 or as many as 5 outstanding players.
The biggest story of the NFL offseason takes an unexpected twist. We've got it covered from every angle with Jeremy Fowler, Mina Kimes, Bill Barnwell, Rob Domofsky standing by, as is Todd Archer. I'm Phil Murphy. Jeremy, it wasn't that many days ago. The likelihood of this trade seemed remote. What are you hearing about why the Cowboys ended up doing this?
Well, Phil, the Cowboys decided early this week to just cut bait. They realized that whatever deal Jerry Jones thought he cut with Micah Parsons back in April in the meeting rooms, he thought he had a deal with the player. They were not accepting that. The Cowboys realized that, and the offers got a little bit better. I was told that team CEO Stephen Jones told the Packers or other teams, hey, it's going to take at least 2 ones and an impact defensive front player. And the Packers had the best package of them all. There were multiple teams involved. And so they sweetened the pot and got it done. And so this is a situation where there was just a fundamental difference between how the player's agent viewed the situation, how the owner viewed it. They just could not reconcile that in the end.
Yeah, I mean, just bluntly, I have yet to hear a coherent football defense of this from Dallas's side. If the argument, and we kind of heard Jerry spell this out, is they wanted to get better on run defense in the short term while also getting better on the long term with draft picks, it's not a good case. First of all, if that was the thinking behind it, then they should have made this move back in the spring, when I have to believe they would have gotten a better return than this. A player who was a better run defender than Kenny Clark at this point in his career. Draft picks that were better than the ones they're likely to get from Green Bay, which are probably going to be near the end of the first round based on how good I think this team is. Draft picks that they could have spent this year on the likes of, I don't know, Tyleik Williams, the run-stuffing defensive tackle who went to Detroit. This makes the Dallas Cowboys a significantly worse team this season, and beyond that, it's entirely speculative. Sure, one of those late firsts could be Micah Parsons, but history suggests that is not going to happen. So if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm absolutely furious because the process behind this has been so utterly flawed.
Yeah, Jerry Jones framing this process as logical and getting to a point that made sense does not really add up. By his own account, in March, Jerry Jones thought he signed Micah Parsons to an extension. And now we're sitting here in August, several months later, and he suddenly realized the Cowboys had a bad run defense? Nothing's changed between March and August when it came to the Cowboys' run defense. It was bad in 23, it was bad in 24. Nothing has changed. The All-22 existed when Jerry Jones made this deal with Micah Parsons in March. The reality is, what Jeremy said is absolutely correct. The Cowboys just woke up and decided we are not getting a deal done. And so at the end of the day, they took the best offer that was available. This is not a Herschel Walker trade. This is not an overwhelming offer. It's not unreasonable. It's not a terrible decision, but it is one that does not make any sense for the Cowboys in terms of where they are right now versus where they were in March.
Yeah, earlier this week we were speculating about which teams might be interested in putting together an offer, and we were coming up with the entire NFL, right? But the reality is the NFL season starts next week. So, and as great as Micah Parsons is, and as much as many teams wanted him, this is not the optimal time to trade a player. So, to me, you can't argue, if you're Dallas, that there was coherent logic or process behind this, because they clearly changed their mind at some point this summer. And the fact that they did, and the fact that it clearly seems to be about the negotiation and Jerry's frankly outdated interpretation of how that thing should go. The reality is, guys, if he was a GM and not the owner of this team, he would not have a job, in my opinion, after this season.
Yeah, and to your point, you made a great point about pre-draft. Should they have made the trade then, maybe they would have gotten a little more. I know a lot of teams I talked to agreed with that, but I did check with the Cowboys. They told me they were still in the mode of getting a deal done with Micah. At that point, the talks with Jerry Jones and Parsons were fresh, so they weren't trying to trade him. And they also fundamentally believe that they can get more in trades after the draft when teams aren't thinking about it as opposed to before. A lot of teams don't agree with that. That happens to be the Cowboys' stance. They are different than a lot of teams, as we're finding out in a lot of areas.
This is a defense that struggled last season, and now the top four in sacks from a year ago are all on different teams or on the pup, and they didn't bring back Dante Fowler. He had 10.5 sacks last season in Washington, but we get a new look now, new on NFL Live. Parsons' first look in green and gold will be with a new number. Number 11 is occupied by Jayden Reed, so Parsons on X. Should I go 0 or 1? Here's the thing. 1 is kind of unofficially retired in Green Bay, unused since 1929 to honor the six-time champ and namesake of home field, Lambeau Field, Curly Lambeau. Let's welcome in Rob Domofsky from Lambeau Field. Rob, Micah's set to speak later this evening. This season kicks in 8 days. A not insignificant game against the Lions. As we wait to hear from Micah, what can you tell us about how the Packers see his addition playing out on the field?
Phil, we've spent so much time the last 23 hours talking about how this deal went down. But let's talk about how it helps them on the field right away. One of the things that they identified coming out of last season was a weakness with their pass rush. They watched how the Philadelphia Eagles steamrolled everyone, including the Packers, on their way to the Super Bowl, and they did it with mostly a four-man rush. Yet the Packers went through most of the offseason without any significant additions to that position. Now, Coach Matt LaFleur took matters into his own hands by making a change at the defensive line coach, and then the guys have raved about new line coach DeMarcus Covington. But Jeff Hafley's defense, as good as it was last year in his first year as a coordinator, and this was a top 5 unit, the one area that they really struggled in was pass rush. They were in the bottom third of the league in pressure percentage. Their sack numbers weren't bad, but coaches say all the time it's more about pressures than sacks, and their pressure numbers were at the bottom third of the league, and we all know that's Micah Parsons' specialty.
Margins are small in this league. This is a Packers team that made the playoffs in 5 of 6 seasons under Matt LaFleur, with just 3 wins total in those 5 postseason trips. Rob, thank you. More regarding what the Packers add in Parsons, since that's the sack stat became official in 1982. Only 2 players have had a dozen sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. It's Hall of Famer Reggie White with the Eagles and then Micah Parsons with the Cowboys, who incidentally both found their way to Green Bay shortly thereafter. White did win a Super Bowl in his 4th season at Lambeau. White's sack numbers year 5 dipped all the way to 11, so he kept that form going, had 198 in his career. He was 31 when he got to Green Bay. Parsons is 26. What does this deal mean for these Packers?
I think it makes the Packers a Super Bowl contender, a Tier 1 team in my mind. Last year, Green Bay was the only team in the entire NFL to rank top 5 in both offensive yards per play and defensive yards per play. They are deep, they are young, they are extraordinarily well coached. What they needed was a star wide receiver, and they're hoping, obviously, that the first-round draft pick, Matthew Golden, can be a true one, and a star edge rusher. Rob alluded to this. As good as the defense was last year, and they were top 10 in most advanced metrics under their new defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, they were not particularly good at getting to the quarterback. In particular, that 4-man rush ranked near the bottom of the league in pressure rate and pass rush win. When they rushed 5, they were much better because Edgerrin Cooper is such an outstanding blitzer. So you need pass rush, and you go out and you get Micah Parsons. That is like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight. I'm sure in their wildest dreams back in the spring, they didn't think that they could get this player. And the fact that they did, again, just makes this team an absolute a force to be reckoned with, in the NFC, and I'm excited to see it play out.
Yeah, it's going to be such a exciting addition for the Packers. And he's a single-handed superstar edge rusher. He makes everyone else better. There's going to be everyone else in this line improving, having more one-on-ones, because teams are going to shield their protections towards Micah Parsons. But, ironically, weirdly enough, the reason for the Cowboys making this trade might be the only weakness now for the Packers on the defensive side of the football, and that is the interior of their line and their run defense. Packers lost TJ Slaton this offseason, who was #1 in the NFL in run-stop win rate last season. Well, you still have Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's a great player. You just traded Kenny Clark to get Micah Parsons. I'm not going to fault the Packers. That is a very good trade if you can make it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have made this trade because of Kenny Clark. You can find guys on the interior, but this close to the start of the season, that run defense is going to be a concern. And they are in a division with the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, both of whom just dramatically overturned the interior of their offensive line. They're going to have to stop the run. And Micah Parsons, for all he is as a pass rusher, is not the best run defender.
Yeah, Bill, the Packers low-key scoured the earth this offseason for pass rush help. They looked at other options dating back to February and March. They knew they had to address this, and I was told their feeling was that this lined up financially. They've already paid Jordan Love, Xavier McKinney, some others. They have some role players to pay, but for the most part, they don't have that star on the books that they have to give that money to, so why not give it to one of the best pass rushers in the league in Micah Parsons? They feel like they've hit on offense. Like their offensive line, they feel good about their young players. Matthew Golden looking like a hit at receiver. So they're pouring into the defense, where defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, by the way, Packers feel he's a future NFL head coach. So why not give him some weapons? He can use Parsons as a catalyst.
And a word that Mina used, young. Green Bay is shaping up to enter week 1 for the youngest roster in the NFL for $1 million per annum. That's just ahead of TJ Watt, who signed his deal a month ago. In fact, all 5 of the highest paid defenders in NFL history signed those deals this offseason, and they would be in perfect reverse chronological order if you just switched, Hunter and Garrett there, Jeremy Fowler. Parsons and not pictured. Trey Hendrickson on that graphic. They got deals done after the final preseason game.
Yeah.
Take us through them both, starting with the Thursday night blockbuster for Parsons.
Parsons is getting a massive deal, not only resetting the pass rush market, but he will pocket more than $60 million in the next calendar year, I'm told. Signing bonus above $40 million. We're looking at $136 million guaranteed. The Cowboys will point out, by the way, that they offered more guaranteed money than that, and Parsons still didn't take it, but that was over a 5-year contract. This is over 4 years, so Parsons gets more money in his pocket now with Green Bay than he had set up previously. Trey Hendrickson, a little bit of a different situation. He wanted that pass rush money too. He had to settle for basically a reworked 1-year deal, but instead of paying his former $16 million, they now pay him $30. So the way he saw it, hey, $14 million raise for this 1 year, and then he hits free agency. He had a bit of a tough call, but I was told it wasn't a tough call at all because the Bengals offered him about $79 million over 2 years. on top of the $16 million he already had, so that would have been $95 million over 3 years. Sounds pretty good, but the guarantees were bad. It was only guaranteed the first year, which is like $33 million. So he said, I'm just going to take what this last offer, pocket the 30, and then I'll go hit it big in free agency at age 31.
Oh, and he's trending the right way to bet on himself. 17.5 sacks a year ago. We often fail to cite he also had 17.5 the year before that. He just didn't lead the league, so we don't talk about it as much. Hey, it's exactly 1 week until Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs kick off their 2025 season against the Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Could this also be the start of the final season for Travis Kelce? Let's see how we got here. Kelce set career lows last season in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, also yards per catch. That said, still led Casey in receiving yards for a 7th time. Kelce made his 2025 return official, texting Pat McAfee live on air, quote, "My dog, I'm coming back for sure. Got a real bad taste in my mouth with how I played that last game. I can't go out like that." He also can't talk about his offseason without mentioning recent engagement to Taylor Swift. The two made it IG official this Tuesday in a post with 34 million likes and counting. But his QB isn't sure this is it for Kelce. Here's Patrick Mahomes in May on his tight end's future.
If it's the last ride, you would never know. I mean, the way he's talking about football, the way he's talking about working and trying to be even better this year than he was last year. I mean, he's not. It doesn't seem like a guy that it's his last ride. Like he's tired of the job.
Mahomes has liked what he's seen this summer, Mina. We know Rashee Rice is suspended the first 6 games. How important is it for Travis Kelce to statistically turn back the clock?
Well, it's going to be important early on, which is what makes the Rice suspension so challenging for Kansas City, because I think the ideal version of this offense is one in which they can lessen Kelce's workload from what we saw last year, one where Xavier Worthy is your answer against man coverage primarily, which we saw in the second half of last season, and when you face zone, you can split targets between Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, who was really outstanding against zone coverage second half of his rookie year. But he's not going to be playing, which means that Kelce is going to have to be an answer for Mahomes against those looks early on. I think one way that they can help him, and I've been a bit of a broken record on this, is if the run game can just be a bit more explosive than it was last year when they were the least explosive rushing attack in football. This Chiefs offense is going to use a lot of 2-3 tight end sets, and if they can run the ball, I think they can get Kelce favorable matchups, create space for him to work underneath, and not put too much pressure on him to be what he was earlier in his career.
Yeah, I think there's 3 things that come to mind that would make Kelce's life easier, make him more productive over the course of this, what maybe is his final season. You mentioned getting favorable matchups for him, and I'd start there in terms of not having him chip as much, because the Chiefs did upgrade at tackle this offseason with Josh Simmons coming in, Jalen Moore. They feel good about their tackles now, and so Kelce, who did chip a lot in that Super Bowl, unfortunately not very successfully, now he can maybe get into more stacks, more bunches. Maybe you make his life easier that way. And give him more free releases off the line of scrimmage, get him into the route combinations a little quicker. And then on top of that, you're looking at, spotting him a little more. Obviously, you want him to play as much as possible, but, spotting him in the red zone, spotting him on third downs, making sure when you absolutely need him to get open, he is fresh and ready to go. And then the snap count for him last year went up. He's been going down almost 4 or 5 consecutive years in a row, from 95% down to 77%. Last year, he played 84% of the offensive snaps. I think they'd like to use their other tight ends more, maybe more 3-wide sets once they get Rashee Rice back, and a little less of Kelce.
That high snap count, yet the 35-year-old Kelce remains extremely durable for the position. 11 straight seasons playing at least 15 games. Parsons is now former division, wishing him the best with a genuine smile. You can start with Giants QB Russell Wilson, who tweeted, quote, Micah Parsons, I went to Wisconsin. Anything you need in Wisco, packing your bags, moving company, just let me know. Basically carrying his stuff out the door. Giants first-round pick, fellow Nittany Lion, number 11, Abdul Carter, also got in on the fun. 47 M's. Let me hold something, brother. New on NFL Live, Brian Schottenheimer, days after saying he expected to have Parsons week 1, today knows Parsons is gone for good.
I'm never going to change who I am. I understand what we've been tasked with from the minute I took this job. We're the Dallas Cowboys. I'm the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I stared right down the barrel of the gun and said, hey, I want to win a Super Bowl. And so that doesn't change. You work and you get excited about the pieces that we've added. Mike is part of our family. That doesn't change. When you leave the team, it doesn't. Zach Martin's still part of the family. It doesn't change, and it makes me happy that those guys are still going to be close. Shoot, we see them here in a couple weeks, right? It's like, that'll be one that it'll be a ball.
Todd Archer joins us now from the Cowboys facility. And Todd, man, you've tracked the tension of this contract stalemate for some time. What's the mood like today in Frisco?
Yeah, I think the players, they were shocked. They were surprised. Those were two of the words you heard from players. But I don't think there was any resignation. They're glad there's a resolution to this, so it's not something they have to continue answering for over the weekend as they get ready to play Philadelphia in all that comes with the opener. You look at what Micah has meant to this team. Obviously, he's meant a lot. He let the players in the defensive line chat group know that the trade was going down. Other players found out similarly through text messages with other teammates. Brian Schottenheimer talked to a number of the leaders on the team to let him know, and he said he had candid conversations with those guys. I talked to one veteran outside the locker room, and he said, look, we got to win with who we have, and I think we have enough. So we'll see who's right here as the Cowboys get ready for the Eagles, and then the following 15 games of the season.
Well, they have that calendar circled 6 days against the Eagles. We can circle the calendar week 4. Packers come to town with Micah Parsons on Sunday Night Football. Todd Archer, thanks so much. On Dallas socials, we got doom and gloom reminiscent of that Luka trade. Bill Barnwell, is there any glass half full point of view that Cowboys fans should consider?
Oh, you gave me a tough assignment here for glass half full. I'll go with this. The Cowboys' run defense was terrible in that 23 loss to the Packers in the postseason and during the 2024 season. And Kenny Clark is a very good run defender. It's going to make a big difference in short yardage and in the red zone. The Cowboys allowed opposing teams to score on 75% of their red zone trips last year. Not just the worst mark in football, but the 5th worst mark since 2000. The Cowboys run defensively better, their red zone defensively better. Well, they'll just be missing one of the best players in football in the process.
Bill's acting like he doesn't have 2,000 words on this on ESPN.com right now. Mina, Packers fans thrilled today, now to many NFC North co-favorites, but give us a glass half empty approach. What could cause these Packers to come up short?
What's that face? Okay, so I'm very high on the Packers. You guys heard earlier I said they're Super Bowl contenders, but if I do have one concern, it's this, the cornerback room, which frankly is something you could say about a lot of teams around the NFL. But this group of corners, you've got Keyshawn Nixon, they added Nate Hobbs, who has done his best work in the slot. Carrington Valentine's played for them. It's not a group of world beaters, and you saw that last year when they didn't get pressure, the defense did struggle. I have good news, though. They're going to get a lot of pressure this year with Micah Parsons, so that should mitigate the pass defense to some degree. But, when you're going up against the likes of Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown in your division, the cornerback depth is a concern.
To support your point, only one team last season had fewer pass breakups than the Packers, but not for lack of effort. From 2012 to 2014, they went first-round defense 12 times, most in the NFL. Anticipated final headgear pick at the site of his first in Columbus. Now, Ohio State beat Penn State that day back in 1996. If Coach backs the Buckeyes again, it's on Arch Manning and the top-ranked Longhorns to change history. It's Manning's 3rd college start, first on the road and first against a ranked opponent. Field Yates had Manning going first in his first 2026 mock draft. The projected top 5 draft order, according to FPI, is Browns at 1, followed by the Titans, Giants, Saints, and Jets. The Browns have had 40 starting QBs since 1999, 10 more than anybody. Oh, by the way, that Micah trade moves the Cowboys into the top 10 in our projected draft order from 12th to 9th. And we welcome in Matt Miller, our draft expert. But Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. If you look at the Peyton and Eli history of the Mannings, this family at large doesn't rush to get to the pro game. Do front offices expect the same from Arch?
I texted with some scouts around the league just minutes ago, and they believe that they're a little torn on this, that they feel like Arch Manning does value his development and getting better, which could lean to multiple years. If it's a close call and maybe he's on the fringe of being in a range that he wants to be, top 5, top 10, whatever it is, then he can go back to school and make millions of dollars at Texas. There's no doubt about it, and he can get better. We're seeing with players like Bo Nix, some of these young guys coming in that have 50, 60 starts, experience is now coveted in the NFL as opposed to those one-hit wonders. Also, as multiple people pointed out, the situation will matter a ton. Looking back with Eli, that mattered to him, could matter to Arch. If he's on the fringe of the top 5 and some of the teams at the top are a bit of a mess, he could pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, I think to your point, Jeremy, the situation and Arch's level of experience are going to matter more than the NIL. I think The Mannings are probably doing okay financially. I don't want to pretend to know how they're doing, but I think the NIL that he's making this year will probably be fine. But I can tell you, the scouts are excited about him when he is going to be in the NFL draft, whether that's in 2026 and 2027. We're talking about a player who last year, had he had enough dropbacks, would have had the third best QBR in college football. And you see some of the playmaking that he brings to the table as a 6'4", 220-pound quarterback. The arm strength was there, the mobility is there. I went back yesterday and watched the Mississippi State game, the second game he started against an SEC team. And Arch has the wheels. He has the running ability. He has the vision. He has the big arm. I think the key that I want to see, and the scouts have said they want to see, will the game slow down for him as he gets into his first full season as a starter? And I think that experience, those reps, that's what's going to matter most to NFL scouts, more than the last name, more than the arm strength, is how well does he manage and play within the framework of the game and a great scheme that they have down there in Texas.
And some in North Texas are trying to create some connective tissue between this new haul of picks the Cowboys have and maybe trading up to get Arch Manning. That would create some contract gymnastics, as it would be a 9-figure dead cap hit in the next 2 years if the Cowboys start looking to maybe build for the future at that position. But that's a tomorrow problem. Today we're talking about an outbound all-pro pass rusher. As far as looking toward tomorrow, Jerry Jones touted his haul of those 2 first-rounders in that Parsons trade.
Not only do we immediately get a player, but those draft picks could get us, I'm talking top Pro Bowl type players, could. Not necessarily, you're going to be quick to say, you won't necessarily get those players. You got to draft them or acquire them. But they could get us as few as 3 or as many as 5 outstanding players.
Matt, that comment generated a lot of eye rolls hearing Jerry talk about, finding all pros in the draft, thinking it's like spending $50 on a lottery ticket to win $50. But is he right about the value of those picks, possibly late first round over the next 2 years?
The next 2 years do look good, and the silver lining for Cowboys fans is that fact that the 2026 and 2027 draft classes are stronger on paper than the 2025 draft was. This past year was seen as a down year, so I'm on board with the kind of the yelling that they should have made this trade in March because there would have been more draft capital coming their way. But they are stocked right now, 7 picks in the top 100 over the next 2 years. This year, 2026, offensive tackle, defensive end. Those are the strengths of the 2026 draft class. The Cowboys need a right tackle. Now they definitely need a defensive end. We get into 2027, wide receiver, quarterback, running back. It is an elite class, 2027. I've been doing this for 15 years. 2027 has the potential to be the best draft class I've ever covered. So losing Micah Parsons is tough. Draft picks are great. You got to hit on those picks. But the next 2 classes do look incredibly strong, and Dallas has 7 picks in the top 100.
You were talking the last 15 years. In the last 15 years, 10 of Dallas's picks taken in the first round ultimately made it to a Pro Bowl. That's tied with the Lions for the most in the NFL, so they have drafted pretty